So I'm just going to go through the basics again. What I like to do is just copy what I write, so you have these notes that you can use them for revising. Remember, when you come to language, your key revision resource is your past papers. Okay, when you come to the exam, you will reread these, look at your notes. This will help you prepare. Okay. So the first thing that we do when we get this task is we want to try and think about what we're being asked to do. Okay. So we always begin with PAT or TAP, purpose, audience, type. Okay. So the type of writing being asked to do is a letter. Okay. The audience will then be whoever is going to receive that letter. Now, whereas an article is designed to be read by many people, letters are usually meant to be read by one person. Okay? So the audience for this, as you can see, is here, the Minister for Transport. Okay? So we've got to think straight away, who is that person? Okay? Now, if I was writing a letter in real life to the Minister for Transport, I would know their name, I would know how long they've done the job for, I would know everything about them, because if I wrote a letter to them, I didn't know who they were, I didn't make it personal, they'd be more likely to ignore me. So letters are much more personal. They're written to one person, and often what they do is they require that person to do something. So they often are about action. Now, 90% of people who write letters are usually complaining about something, right? You don't write a letter to the Minister for Transport being like, hey, the tubes are running really well, the trains are running great, isn't it amazing how the roads aren't congested? When people are happy, they don't write letters. Okay? Normally, they're complaining. Okay? And they're complaining because they want change. Right? The trains are always cancelled. I want you to change it. The roads are full of holes. I want you to change it. Okay? This is a person here who has power. Now, if you're not aware what a minister is somebody who works in government. So the Minister of Transport has the power to change the way transport runs. Okay? So letters are much more personal. Okay? It is to somebody in power. Now, we're writing to somebody in power, we have got to be formal. We have got to make sure that our writing is polite. Forceful, but polite. If you rant and rave and write in slang, you're not going to be respected. If you're not respected, you're not going to have your issue addressed. Okay? Also consider, for audience, not just who are you writing to, but also who are you? Who are you? Why should this guy or woman, actually it is a woman at the moment, why should they listen to you? Who are you? Do you have clout? Right? Now imagine if you're Minister for Transport and 5 people have written you a letter, whose letter are you going to take seriously? 5 competing demands. So try and make yourself somebody, you want to be somebody important. Okay? Now remember, you don't have to be you, it's creative writing. So make up a person. Who could you be? Who could you pretend to be that would garner respect? Okay, that would garner respect. Okay, the purpose, okay, is to do with cars. So you have to decide, what are you arguing, right? Cars, this says cars are bad, they're dangerous, they're dirty, they're smelly, they should be banned in all town and city centres. So the question we're asking is, should cars be banned? Yes or no? And again, you've got to choose. Okay, you've got to be either very pro or very anti. Okay, now what we call this bit here is, I call this pre-planning. Okay, so before you start planning out your paragraphs, your structure, what you're going to say, what you're going to write, you have to decide these issues. Who are you going to be? Who is the Minister for Transport? What's their name? You don't have to know their name, you can make it up. But if you write Dear Minister for Transport, they're going to go, they don't know who I am. So make them up, right? Decide who they are. Have they been in a scandal recently, right? Can you put any pressure on them, right? Try and make it interesting. Also try and consider this, right? The issue here, like with the article, what are you reacting to? So what is happening in the news? Okay? So what's going on, right? Why has this issue of cars come up? Something must have happened, right? Maybe somebody was killed by a reckless driver. Or maybe cars have been banned in a town and you're fighting against it. Okay, you want to try and find out something that's actually happening. Now again, all of this is totally made up. Okay? But before you start planning out your answer, you need to know these things. Okay? So we'll do this in a second. Once you've decided what you want to write, so what you're going to argue, who you are, who the Minister of Transport is, and again what a letter looks like. So remember, a letter has a certain style to it. So dear, dear person, sign it off at the end. You now want to do your structure. Okay? Now remember, in order to try and hit the marks for this one, content organisation, which comes down to essentially what you say and the structure. Okay. Now remember, we're trying to get 2+ pages. Okay. So we've got to make sure we plan enough that allows us to write that much. Okay. Now with an article, we talk about beginning with an anecdote. Okay. That doesn't work for letters. You can't write a letter and be like, last week, here's what happened. The letter must begin very clearly with who you are and what you're writing about. So the first one, what we do is we flip, from the article, we flip the first 2 paragraphs around. Okay. So for a letter, this is your classic letter structure. Okay. So first of all, number 1 is the who are you, plus why are you writing. Okay. So dear so-and-so, my name is do-do-do-do, and I am this, and I am writing to you today because of this issue. Okay. Now again with the why, think about what you want, the change you want. Okay. Don't just write a letter complaining. Write a letter that's constructive. Right. What do you want to happen? Here's the problem. Here's what I want. Okay. Then what you do, number 2, is you go into an anecdote. An anecdote just means a story. An anecdote that shows the issue. And in this bit, you want to try and be very descriptive. Okay, you want to try and bring it to life, describe it, exaggerate it, make it sound worse than it actually is. Okay. Number 3 is we then want to go more broad. So we want to go into the broader issue. Okay. Now in this bit, this is where we might talk about statistics. So we're talking about spelling, we're talking about punctuation, We're talking about having varied sentences. We're talking about your vocabulary. Okay? 40% is literally for how you write. So even if your letter is really bad, but you write it really clearly, you might still get half the marks. So when I say about section B being easier than section A, that's the reason why. Okay? It's very, very important that you just literally write something. Okay? Final piece of advice. Turn the page, please. So, if you are concerned about not writing enough, one thing you can do is just to space out your writing. So, you're aiming to get 2 pages. So what you can do is just mark it out. So you might go, right, so I'm going to aim to get, so that is going to be my part 1, right? Then maybe that will be my part 2. Then maybe that will be my part 3. Part 4. Part 5. Okay. So if you're concerned about trying to get enough through it, you can practice doing this. Then what you do is you force yourself to write until you hit the point. Okay. Once you hit the point, you can then move on. Okay. Remember, finally, that this is not a 5-paragraph structure. This is a 5-part structure. Okay. Within each of these parts, there should be multiple little paragraphs. Okay. So what you have is many little paragraphs. Okay. What we don't want is just five similar blocks, because you won't get anything for creativity of paragraph length. Again, easy things you can do. One line paragraphs are very good, very easy to do. Okay. You want to always make sure that you have variety. Okay. Variety of sentences, variety of paragraphs, and variety of style. Okay. The worst thing you can do is make your writing really monotonous. People get bored and they'll mark you down for that. Okay. So variety is absolutely really, really key.